Okay, we're back 3.6. We're going to be talking about hash maps. Let's get into it. Hash maps. Let's get into the curriculum. Now, as you see, I have the file open with HashMap's gradebook. And here it says Java also provides us a structure to store data as key value pairs. Now, you're already familiar with key value pairs if you're coming from JavaScript. It's dealing with objects. Remember, everything in Java is an object. Just like in JavaScript, everything's an object. If you're new to Java and new to any programming language, this is foreign to you. So let me explain. Java calls these objects hash maps or maps more generally, and they are provided by the HashMap class. Considering the gradebook example, we can improve our program using a map. Now, in JavaScript or any other programming language, what maps do, maps allows you to loop over or iterate over keys. It allows you to do, it gives you more flexibility. You tend to see this in use cases when you are dealing with a list of things. Like, for instance, if you have a drop down and you have an API that has a whole bunch of states in it. And so what you do is you're able to get whatever the API that those states are. You can call them and map over those particular states and store them in one value or one key, and you're able to have access to them by pulling them out one at a time. And it kind of deals with space as well, time and space complexity as well, because you want to make sure you can do things quickly and more efficiently as you learn to write more efficient code. But we'll go over that later on. Get back into the curriculum here. And it tells us, and they provide, let me see right here, we'll store the students' grades along with their names in the same data structure. The names will be the keys, and the grades will be the value. As with the other collection structures in Java, we must specify the type of the object we'll be storing when we declare a variable or parameter to be a map. This means specify both key and value data types, which are allowed to be different types for a given map. So here we go. Over here, we have the HashMap grade over here in IntelliJ, and it matches this right here. So we're going to use this as the reference in IntelliJ. It says, notice how a HashMap collects students is declared on line 11. So here we are on line 11. See how we're declaring it? Just like we declare an array list. An array list is a class. HashMap is a class. And we are storing both the string and the double. And we're getting this information from the new HashMap class, and we're storing it in the variable students. Here, string double defines the data types for the map's keys. Now, one of the things that we're used to up until this point is the fact that when you declare a variable in JavaScript, it can only have one type. But you notice here in the hash map, you can have two different types. And all right, so pay attention to this. And the reason why we have those two different types is because one is a key and the other is a value. So we're dealing with key value pairs like an object. So this makes a little bit different, right? So pay attention and let's go a little bit deeper. Defines data types for this map, key and value pairs. Like the array list, when we call the hash map constructor on the right side of the assignment, we don't need to specify the type. On the right side of the assignment right here, we didn't declare the type. We have it right here when we assign it to the actual variable. Now, we can add a new item with a put method, specifying both key and value. Now, This may be new to you when we're talking about a put. Put means it's putting something into it or adding something into it. We use these methods. We call these verb methods when we're dealing with, say, databases. When we're putting information or we're getting information, posting information. We'll talk more about that when we get into databases. But here we're putting something somewhere. That's what that put method represent here. And it says it's specifying both key and value on line 26. So here on line 26, we have the students and we're putting in the new student and the new grade. Where's that coming from? Up here, you notice we have declared, but we never initialized the variable new student on line 13. But then when we get down to line 11, we're using that variable. Notice that we don't have to put string on the front of it in this do while loop. We just sign the input.next line. So this is going to store the information that we're requesting. When we print student, then what we're going to do right here on line 20, when we're putting it to the console, the student name, here the new student, whatever we input is going to be stored in this variable. And then down here, we're going to put the new student, which is singular, and new grade, which is singular, and we're going to store it into this student's object. That's why we're going to put it there. Every time we enter a new one, we put it in the whole student object. So it adds it to the object. So now, and while we don't do so in this example, we may also access HashMap elements using the get method. If we had a key value pair of Jesse /4.0 in the student's map, we could access the grade with double Jesse grade, which is taking a number, student get Jesse. So here, get Jesse is going to be passed into the student's grades, which will also be stored here in that variable. Variables may be used to access elements. So here we have string name. We're passing in Jesse, storing it Jesse into the name variable. And here we're going to get that name and we're storing it into the student, or using the student's, getting that information from the student's object. And now it's going to be stored in Jesse's grade. So this is Jesse's grade book, right? But this is something, they were just giving you the example here. This is not a part of our actual file. So just remember that. Looping through a map is slightly more complex than it is for ordered list. Let's look at the for each loop from this example. So here, we're reading the for each loop here. We got this map on line 38, starting on line 38. We have a map, and it's capitalized, a map right here, dot entry. What are we entering? String double, key value pair. Student, for each. So we have this for each. So student is getting, that's inside student's entry set. Then we go ahead and print out this information. And then we do what? We take student.getValue, and it's a compound operator here, plus equal, and it's stored into the sum. Now, the iterator variable, student, is of type map.entry_string. So here's the type for student. So we have the type, which is map.entry. And double, the class map.entry is specifically constructed to be used in this fashion to represent key value pairs within HashMap. Each map.entry object has a get key method and a get value method, which represents, surprisingly enough, the key and the value of the map item. Now, you're going to have to play around with this. You got to constantly go over this over and over again until it makes sense. You may have to go over this 3 or 4 times or even more, but you got to play around with the code to be able to get your head wrapped around this concept, because it may be a little bit confusing right now, but you got to work with it, and eventually you'll be able to understand it and see what we are talking about. Now, a similar structure applies if you only need the values using students.value. So here we go. Right here is an example of that. 3.6.1 HashMap methods. Let's collect some HashMap methods as we have for array list. As we said about array lists, this is by no means a comprehensive list. For full details on all properties and methods available, see the reference section below for official documentation on the HashMap class. For the purpose of this table, we'll create a map to hold our solar system planets and the number of moons associated with each. So here we go. We have we're declaring this at HashMap. Here's the moon, here's the variable, and here it's empty right now, and we're getting it from the new HashMap. So we take moon, and then we're putting Mercury in it, Venus, and so we give it Mercury is the key. 0 is the value. So that's being stored into moon. Now, here is the Java syntax. Go over these methods. Take your time, read through them, and get familiar with them, because you're going to use them, and you're going to need to refer back to them when you get to the assignments, because we may be a little bit vague on giving you information. So you need to look for the clues. And this is where you learn how to understand how to find those clues, because when you start reading the documentation, it tells you what the correct way to what the definition of each one of these methods are. So when we give you instructions, you want to remember, oh, they gave me a key, a clue, and that clue was telling me, oh, I may need to use the put method or the key set method. So it's in your best interest to go through these methods so to understand what's there. Also, just don't rely on these few methods that we're giving you here. Go to the official documentation, because you may see some methods that have some functionality that you may need later. But if you don't know that it's there, you won't know that you can use it. So I highly recommend to look at the official documentation. Okay. All right. So we have only brushed the surface of how arrays, array list, and maps work. We leave it to you to refer to the official documents. That's what I just said, right? Link below for more details. You'll certainly be using array list and maps in more ways than those covered in this lesson. But with the knowledge you have now, you should be able to use Java collections and learn new uses as you go. So here's the reference right here, and check your understanding. Again, don't sleep on the tools, the information that we're giving you, these links. You're going to have to go deeper with it. Just don't rely on what's in this curriculum. We're just scratching the surface, like we're saying. You have to go the extra mile. You're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. We're just introducing you to it. It's up to you how far you want to go. So again, the more you practice, the more you improve. All right. That's the end of this particular chapter. Now go do your exercises, and we'll see you in the studio. All right. Take care.